go. We started, and we're going straight into it because that's what we do around here. Thank you for joining. It's each week progressively I am getting better and better at it, and each week I'm periodically getting better and better equipment. So I have a better camera this time. So we're pretty happy with that because yeah, you can see all this better. Thank you for looking at that. But let's get straight into it. So I'm hoping tonight that we can actually finish this. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun to recap the entirety of this actual journey that our comrades have been on since the start. And even though I've shortened it to a large degree, and there are some bits and bobs here and there, my hair's terrible, that we've missed. Once you join into the journey, hopefully either next week or the week after, you'll be able to experience all the little tidbits that I have left out. But it's a wild journey. It's been awesome, and there's plenty more to come. Literally, there's heaps to go. Like we're still fresh into it. It's this is the season session now that you're listening to that has a lot of new stuff, like a lot of character growth, a lot of actual people getting teaming up, and it's where the characters start to become. The players start to become the characters, they come into their own, and they actually start to embrace them really well. So, I'll explain how they do that. If you recall last one, they finished up with the party joining Amelia, the vampire, well, princess you could call her, as she decides that she wants to enlist the party into her small militia that she's going to now require their assistance, and join the militia, as she is now explaining her family tree, which if you watched the last video, it's a breakdown of her family tree and why she wants her sister from different mum but same dad killed, essentially, blood ties and all that. That's really bothering me. And so she enlists them by not putting them into servitude, but does give them a branding of a mark on their hands that does allow them into the guild once they get to Tubicorn, which is a small fishing village that they decide to make their hub. And this hub is where they'll go now. This is where they decide to go now. They're going to go with Amelia to this hub. So, just before our party leaves, young Bong, our orc barbarian, his scroll that the glowing scroll that he acquired from the shop, Elkar's shop, it gives off a faint glow, and he does have a kind of surreal dream-like moment where he is able to actually attune to his mind and actually has a full conversation with some of his past relatives. Now, Bong doesn't know who his actual parents are, and that's part of his journey. So part of his journey, because this is where our backstories start to really start, which is good, and they start to become unfolded, and they start to mix into the main campaign, which is what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to be a very fluid and part of the main campaign, where it doesn't stop everything and go, I have to go do this, which they may need to do that, but it's not just, cool, we're in the middle of this massive boss fight, and oh no, my past relatives need my help, and Vominos, off he goes. No. I wanted to make it a very agreeable and fluid way for their backstories to slide into the main campaigns and work in tandem alongside of it. So they'll be able to see very soon, and so will all of you, that I believe I've fitted into it well. That all the party members now will start to discover parts of themselves that they haven't seen before, or they'll start to actually get a lot of the things that they let me know that I've embellished a lot in their backstories into the story, which is great. So, how we do that? Young Bong has a dreamlike vision of two of his past relatives that have finally broken through the hazy mold of his mind to be able to communicate with him. And we get the names of Rak and Dunak, who are his two great grandfathers. The greats are shortening and lengthening in the way that Bong wants. So Bong's like, I want 9 greats or 2 greats. It's up to him. He's not all there. So he's just like, oh, I saw ghosts and they're my past relatives, as he describes it. So with that, he meets Rak and Dunak, who essentially give him the task of trying to figure out what has happened to his parents and where they are and what's going on. And so they give him a bit of advice, saying if you could essentially find orcish artifacts, Bong, our family tree is a very special tree. It's very unique in the way that we are able to assist you whenever you come into crisis. So whenever Bong needed to go ahead and use his rage, because he's a barbarian, we had him actually need to see what would happen when he raged. If he got so blinded by rage, because it's rage, that he kind of didn't remember what was going on, it's essentially what happened was one of his ancestors took over to help kind of puppet his body, and in turn give him abilities that were kind of coherent with the family member that was inhabiting the body. So Rock, for instance, which when he inhabits him, he has the ability of knowing an enemy's crit spot, which essentially what I flavored that was is, for instance, like an enemy may have a previous injury to a leg, and Rock was able to actually take note of this and would purposely attack those spots to allow crits to happen, or specific attributes that may happen by attacking points of weakness in the enemy. And so that was Rock's ability, and Dunak had one as well. So what Bong was able to do essentially is, in times of need, and it's very similar to like the Avatar, speak to his previous ancestors and kind of get advice or assistance or powers or abilities and stuff like that through the Bong lineage, essentially, and then figure out, why is he not able to remember any of this? Why was it taking so long for his ancestors to contact him? Why were they not able to contact him? And the whole mystery of his family tree is essentially Bong's story. So he has contact with two of his grandfathers, and they explain, look for orcish artifacts. Our family tree is extensive and large, so we may have at one point owned that item or object and may still have soul residue on it that you can use to speak to more of your ancestors you may want to do. So they give him that task, and that's what he's been doing henceforth. After that, and that's all said and done, we have the comrades decide they're going to join Emilia and Zidane on their way to Tugon, to the guild. So they set off. At this point, after their fight that they had, or like tussle essentially, Fleur and Emilia had like a really long, lovely chat, and then they were like getting along really well, so they're becoming slow besties. And then we have the rest of the party going, it's getting a bit late, so they get to the base of the mountain as they proceed, because they actually haven't left Bleak Mist yet. They were at the bathhouse and just went into the forest to the side of it. They then start the journey to the base of the mountain, because they decide they're going to go over the mountain, or through it I should say, like over through, to get to the other side. And on the other side is a short skip and a hop to the guild, the militia guild. So they get to the base of the mountain after a small travel and some chit chat between the comrades and everything like that, and they decide to set up camp. The good part about this camp setup was we got introduced to one of the nicer and more refined characters that I've made up, which was we have Charles. So once I had the tents and the camps and everything set up and all that ready to go, we have Helvig, our resident necromancer, decides he wants to pull out Charles. And Charles is essentially a butler. And he comes out and he has a very, it's a bit torn and tattered, but it's still well kept. It's still upkept really well for a zombie. We meet Charles, the butler zombie, who has a very, he's like, "Sir, what can I do for you today, sir? Anything you need, sir?" That type of one. And he's very, prim and proper, stands up quite tall, stands up very delicately, and he's very, takes pride in his appearance, still decomposing, but takes pride in what he has. And everyone else gets to meet Charles, and he is very handy with a lot of things, being as a butler in his previous life. So he actually does help with the cooking. He does teach them as well, kind of how to do seasoning, how to do some spices and stuff like that onto the chicken they catch. And Xurian takes he's like, "Can you teach me? This is awesome. Like, what else do you know?" And he's like, he knows about potions and herbs, and he worked for a wealthy family as a butler. He hasn't said who it was and everything like that. But in his previous life, he was really well refined, well taught, and a very knowledgeable person. So he has a lot of skills that are very handy for the party. So he's doing the cooking and everything like that, and he's turning the rotisserie and everything to kind of get that flavor going through the food. And while that's happening, the party has a decent chat with Zidane and Amelia, and she retires into her extremely large, well, it's not large, it's small, but they discover by Zidane being like, "Oh, let me just tell you one little secret tidbit, that within the actual tent, regardless of the fact that it's small, it does have a portal that she carries with her back to her home in Misimbra, which, she has her own room, a very large room, of course, and very delicates and everything like that. And so it's more a sense of, she does get homesick, because she does still love her home, but also it's very convenient to be able to go, "Hey, I need to go home, I'm off," and she can be, on the other side of the world, different plane of existence, that type of shenanigans. And so they learn about that, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, that's why, she's, all of a sudden she's pulling out beds and chests of drawers and stuff like that," and they're like, where did all that come from? Where did that fit? What is going on?" So that explains that. And so they all get some rest and finish off the night. Two of them do hear incredibly large kind of tremors during the night, and some roars that happen from the mountain that cascade down into the base where they are, and they kind of all hear it. This kind of alarms them, since they're like, "Yep, we have to go up there and through there." So it's kind of fun they did hear that. But they all kind of wake up the next morning. They give the information that they heard overnight. "This is what we heard, this is what we felt." Zada and Amelia are like, "We're going now. We're going to beeline as quick as possible." Beeline as quick as possible, because they want to start, helping the war front, essentially. Their militia they've made, they want to help that. So they're like, we're gonna go. And trust me, they're quicker. So they take off, but they give the party a map, essentially, with directions of how to get to the mountain quick, smart, so they can get to the base really quickly, because it is a winding mountain, different paths, and there is a small nomadic village that lives up there. Don't really like people, hence why they live in a mountain. But Amelia gives them a map to get through it with directions, and so that's what happens after that. So those two, they depart, and they venture off into the mountain, and they're gone, no longer be seen. So the party is like, we'll hang around a bit, we'll get some more provisions, let Charles do a bit more cooking and everything, so Xurian can learn a bit, and then we'll leave. All of that transpires, and then they go, "Yep, we're off." So the next part is they start heading up the mountain. I've mentioned the mountain before, essentially, but it is like the main trade route, or one of the main trade routes to Bleak Mist. So it's got a wide enough road, like I said, that you can fit two carriages going side by side easily, that you can comfortably fit them side by side and going up the mountain, so it's fine. The one thing that the party did take note of is that over the course of the travels that they've been back and forth between the mountain and this area quite a bit, that the amount of people going back and forth has dwindled. There is less actual people and carriages and just in general going back and forth. They used to seeing quite a bit, but there is actually like way less now. They still sell some, but it's an alarmingly less amount. So they're like, well, that's a bit odd. Like, that's not exactly great. Especially because they're like, it's, Auril, Tiandra's daughter, did mention there's a ball. So they chalked into, oh, well, they're probably on their way to Anvil. That's where everyone's going to be heading. That's where the big shenanigans are going to happen. That's where the ball's happening. Like, there's a festival. Everything's going down, so they're going to go down. So that's what they basically, that's probably what's happening. So they proceed up the mountain, venture up it for a bit. It does take a couple of hours to get to like the precipice, the peak of it, near the peak of it, where they can go left or right, and they choose to go right because of what Amelia's map says to do. And then they get to a point where they can choose left or right again, and then they can go to the nomadic village, on the left, or they can go to the right, which is the way that Amelia says to go. So they heed the warnings of the map and decide to go to the right, which is fine. That's the way it's supposed to go. They proceed downwards, or I guess to a kind of a part where it levels out, and the mountain starts to get some more man-made structures and cutouts to it. So you can see that these actual stone granite large cubes that are made into like a wall, like a partitioned wall that goes along the actual skirting of the entire walkway that they're going, as a kind of, when someone wants to make a barricade or something to keep things out, they have that's now appearing to the left and right of them. So like, oh, okay, we've obviously got like, this is where maybe something happens, and this is where like people have been frequently, which is true. So they get to the midpoint of the mountain itself, and then they see a large cone of stone gate, stone iron kind of towers that are structures that are built on the left and right of it, and then a large wooden and iron gate that has been kind of busted open. You can see that the hinges have been shattered off it, and it's an incredibly large gate. Like it's enormous. It's enough to keep majority of everything out if they want to. And this is essentially a checkpoint between the back and forth of people going through it. So it's a checkpoint. There's usually soldiers stationed everywhere like that. There's people who are supposed to be everywhere, but there isn't. It's desolate. It's deserted, and they can't see anyone like that. They don't hear anything. And so like, oh, that's good. That's not great, because they were told there's the checkpoint. There's going to be people there, but there isn't. There's no one there. So they get to close to the base of the gate, and they kind of look around, and they're like, it's a bit wary. We'll be a bit wary of like what's going on, everything like that. And then they do spy at the top of one of the small towers. There's a young man kind of peering over and looking at them, like a bit frightened, but he's keeping an eye on them. They notice him, and then they start shouting, hello, what's going on? Who are you? Like, where is everyone? And stuff like that. So he kind of stands up a bit, realizes they're don't seem to be enemies, relaxes a bit and talks to them, and he explains, there's been attacks literally just up ahead, and they have demolished people, carriages, soldiers. Everything that's going through here has been like attacked, and the frequencies of the attacks have increased as well. Used to be a small amount, but now it has actually increased exponentially. And so he's like, this is not great. This is why I'm hiding here. I don't have the physical strength to get past what's happening. So they're like, okay, yep, that's not great, but thank you for the information. They say, can you come down? So he comes down, and they say it's a very, very young orc in a soldier's outfit. He's not muscly yet at all. He doesn't have that kind of genetic, predisposition that they all have, where they're kind of bulky and mass and stuff. He's quite thin and frail still, and he tells him his name's Friedrin, and that it's only his second week on the job, and they're all like, "Oh, you poor thing, like." You get stationed here, and within the second week of your career as a soldier, this shit happens. Like, this is not great. So he's like, yeah, no, I would love to get back to Anvil, which is where he's commander and stuff. He's like, I would love to get back there, but I can't get through there without assistance. And they're like, we'll do it. He's like, I don't think you'll be good to do it. And they're all like, no, we'll do it. We got it. And so they asked Friedrin, it's like, well, what's currently happening out there? And he's like, there's giants. Like, oh, shit, right. That's not great. And he's like, yep. They come from the base to the top of the mountain where they do dwell. And they usually don't venture down at all because they have enough up there, and they don't really want to attack carriages and stuff because they'll fight back and probably kill them. But he's like, nope, they've decided, nope, they're coming down, and the attacks have been more frequent. So they're like, shit, all right, cool, we need to solve that issue. And so this is the point where I'm like, Juzzy, I love you, man. Like, this is top tier role playing, what he decided to do with these ideas. And he's like, he has innumerable amounts of zombies at his disposal. So he goes, you know what I'm going to try to do? I'm going to send my zombies out like he does as a recon. But he's like, I'm going to completely fill them with alcohol. So he's like, I'm going to make them like a full on a shot, like the highest alcoholic shot you can think of, because giants eat people, of course. So he's like, his idea was like, I'm going to disguise them in robes. And he puts the robes on them, which they got from the mines ages back with the gibbering mouth of flesh monsters, so they can't be seen, to disguise their face, because the giants might see zombies and be like, that's not edible. But he's like, he's also going to put so much alcohol, and he has like a barrel for them, remember? So he's like, I'm going to literally like soak these things in so much alcohol that you can't smell that they're zombies. And so he's like, they're like just pouring it down their throats, covering their bodies, and they're just drenched from head to toe in alcohol, these three zombies. And he's like, this is it. So I was like, yeah, that's remarkable. Let's give that a shot. So he sends them off, and off they go. Quick side note with the zombies that young Helvig has. There's, within the rules of D&D and everything, the distinct thing with zombies is he can only control them for 24 hours. So he has to, if they stay out for longer than 24 hours, he has to retake the control, or they just become mindless zombies again, and they will try and eat you. Which, zombies aren't too strong, so it's not a big a deal, but it means he can't. With Charles has actually been out for more than 24 hours, and he's stuck around. And he's still, Helvig has control over him, but he in theory, he's supposed to lose that control after 24 hours. But Charles has allowed him, because he's actually happy to be in his servitude, to consistently have that control no matter what. So if Charles is like, cool, I can spend like a week outside with you, it's fine. Like, you'll still have, I will do what you say. So that's the difference between the normal one and Charles, which he does other ones, but like Charles is the very refined and specific one where he's like, I'm going to stick around for you, which is great. So they send the zombies off. Helvig sends the zombies off, and they make it to the other side of the gate, and they move around the corner, and they start descending downwards until it hits a kind of like another kind of flattened out area of it. And the zombies immediately see, and then Helvig can see through their eyes, that there is three giants, and he deduces using a roll that they're hill giants, so they are very specifically kind of group orientated giants that have packs together, and they stick together. They usually don't come in and attack too much because they usually get what they want when they need it, but this is odd for them. This behavior is different. And so he's like, yeah, I know what they are, summarize what they are, relays that back to the information to the party. They're like, oh, good, yep, shit. So they're like, yeah, cool, let's go ahead and see what we can do. And so the zombies walk up, and offer themselves to the gods, essentially, as sacrifices. The two of the hill giants pick them up and immediately just like one shot, just like, oh, and like gobble them up, and they're like, yeah, awesome. One of them does like kind of like pick them up and goes, smells a bit weird, like smells odd. This is a weird sensation, and he's like, well, I'm hungry, so bugger it, and gulps down the actual zombie as well. So when it comes to hill giants, they don't really have alcoholic drinks because of their size. They're trying to get any type of alcohol into it, like something that big is enormous. So they don't really usually drink alcohol. They have liquids like fluids and, you know, unfortunate blood through creatures and water and everything like that to stay alive, but they don't actually drink alcohol. So this will be the first time that these creatures, or in a very long time, that they've actually experienced alcohol. So it hits them like a truck, like immediately. And so they are intoxicated. So they have disadvantage on all of their checks now because they are literally inebriated beyond belief because they're not drinkers whatsoever. So they're like, okay, cool, yep, so you have 100% managed to... Oh, that's way better. Sorry, I'm fixing the camera. You have now managed to intoxicate the hill giants. And he's like, done. Let's go. So they leave Friedrich, the young orc, behind with the Hellrig, just around the corner. And then they decide to go take care of the hill giant problem. They walk around and then, bam, straight away, initiate combat. They're like, let's do this. They do notice, though, when they get there, that there are carcasses of more than the 3 hill giants. There's 3 live hill giants, but there are carcasses of another 3 hill giants that have been recently like offed, and they have like just enormous claw marks through their gashing, like straight through their abdomen and stuff, like their guts are spilled out and all that. And you've got like just bite marks all over them, and they've gone like, well, I assume this is where Amelia and Zydan have come through and just gone like dead, and just kept going, like on their way. Like that, it was that easy for them. And so they're like, yep, it looks like that's where they came through. So they're like, well, let's do it. They initiate combat, and Helvig's like, the hill giant corpses. I'm like, yep. Like, they're fresh. I was like, yes, you can zombify them. So he rolls, gets it done, and he gets the hill giants on his side. So 2 of the zombie hill giants are now on the player's side. So it's like way outnumbered on the enemy hill giants. I was like, damn, that's really good thinking. So it was really cool. So he's like, come my pretties, like giant hill giants come out, and he's got zombified ones, and so they're fighting for him. And then he also, like, the rest of them start pummeling away in it. So they start fighting the hill giants, and the battle starts going really their way because one, they have 2 extra hill giants on their side, and 2, the enemy hill giants are intoxicated, so they have disadvantage on fucking everything. So they're just like rolling like garbage because they have disadvantage, and they're also just drunk, so they're like missing everything, slurring, angry. So it was very funny. It was a good fight. I really enjoyed it. And then we did get to see Bong utilize one of his abilities where he goes into a rage and he channels Ruck, who's the one I told you before who can aim for crit spots. So he's like, awesome. So he basically goes up to the hill giant, gets his bongo clubs, and just whacks it straight into like the heel of this giant hill giant. And I basically flavored it where there's a previous injury, it actually forces the hill giant to grab onto its leg and kind of bend down and go prone. So a normal hit would have just done damage, but because of Ruck's kind of ability to notice these crit spots, he's now prone as well, which was it's just something Bong's going to discover as he goes along. So that was something where he got to utilize his powers and also remember, because another thing of like when a spirit inhabits the body is he doesn't remember what's happening during the fight afterwards. He's like fully like, I don't remember anything, like what happened. Whereas now he actually has a recollection of what's going on, which is very handy for, you know, everyone. And so to cut a long fight short, not really a long fight, but a short fight, they win, of course. They kill off the 3 hill giants that are there, and then everything's good and done. Helvig's like, can I keep these? And I was like, yeah, you can, but you just have to roll because like they have a higher CR than what you used to. He unfortunately did not roll high enough to acquire these 2 Pokemon, or I should say hill giants. But it was a good try. He did well with the rolls. It just wasn't quite high enough to reach what he needed to reach. But the battle's finished, and they finish up their fight, and they go, "Yep, we're done. Awesome. Let's keep going." So Frisian's like, "I'm going to stay in the Hellwig," and they descend down the mountain. So they get to the base of the mountain. Like I said, I'm just speed running this. They get to the base of the mountain, and they have crossed over the mountain. So they've done it in one day by following the advice and map of Emilia. So they get to the bottom, and they can see that there's a campfire happening, and they can see that Lamb is there. And Lamb is also speaking with Emilia and Zidar, and they're like having a really general conversation. So the party all venture up, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Lamb, like, damn, son, like, wait, what are you here of all places?" and stuff like that. And Emilia turns and goes, "Oh, you know the Pale Rider, you know, the White Embrace," because he has many monikers. So he's Lamb, White Embrace, Pale Rider, many different names. And they're like, "Yep, we met him like back at the carnival and stuff like that." And he explains, he's just like, "Oh, I met like young Emilia here, like, you know, when she was like this close to death." And she's like, "You know, I was going to, you know, she was this close that I was like," he showed himself to her in preparation to be like, "I'm going to give you the opportunity to, you know, pass your soul on." But she, you know, he said, "Oh, but during that time, you know, someone came and rescued you, and after you were a vampire." And the pie's like, well, wasn't she? And she's like, "Nope, shut up." And they're like, "All right, cool, sweet. That's conversation for another time." And so Lamb's like, "Yeah." So like, he's like, I actually have a job to do here." He's like, because he is, like I said, an envoy of death. So his job is to pass the souls on, as is his job. So he's like, "I'm actually here because a battle is going to take place," because he can sense it and he feels, he understands how death works. He's like, "There is a battle about to take place, and I am here to do my role, my job." So like, "Oh, can you tell us about it?" And he's like, "No, I can't, because it's not privy for you guys to know. I'm not telling you about the future or my feelings." But he's like, "I can just tell you that it's nearby, and then shit's gonna go down." So like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "Well, I actually have information for you, and I want to talk to you about something very private and specific." So he does two things. First of all, he does explain a bit more about the task that he wanted them to do in the Witchlight Carnival when he first met them. He does explain to them that during the period of time where he was one being, rather than being Lamb and Wolf, and when he, you know, took the axe and split himself in two because he was like, "I am done being lonely. I need a friend or something, like, I'm done." So that's when he creates Wolf. The unfortunate thing that happens when he does do this, as he is a celestial being essentially, or he's a being of death, is when he splits himself in twain and becomes two, the husk that was left over, so Lamb's original husk that was left over, gains sentience and is now called the Grey Man. And so the Grey Man, from its inception, has decided that he wants to gather power. Like, he wants to gather as much power as possible. And so they're like, "Oh, right." And he's like, "Yes, I have seen it slowly gather power." He's like, at the start, it wasn't too big of a worry. It was more of a just a, he didn't want, it's kind of like leaving yourself behind. He's like, I didn't want to, he's like, I moved past that. I have my role to do, my job to do, and my old husky body is not my issue. Until it decided, it's like, no, it's going to start garnering a kind of like like a sentient being mind, where it's like it craves power, and so it started accumulating power any way it could. We were being absorbing beings' physical essence until it became part of it, learning spell, like anything it could do to acquire more power is what it was doing. And so now it's at the level of, you know, a demigod. It's not great. It's really not great. It does, like I say, it chooses who it attacks based on if it can get something out of it, if it can learn and stuff like that. And so the party's like, right, so it's not just killing people, but it's still a worry, still a threat. And Lamb's like, yeah, it's something that he's like, I have to deal with it. And he's like, I will help, but he's like, I believe that you guys one day should be able to be the ones to take it down. And he does mention, he goes, look, I have seen something in you. I have seen something within all of you, and it's a spark. And it's not a normal spark. Not something that he sees in your everyday person. He's like, I see something very unique and special within all of you. And ever since he's met them, he's like, you had that spark within you, but it has grown. And he's like, it has grown much larger, and he believes that if it continues to grow, they will gain the power to be able to fight the Grey Man on equal footing. He goes, at the moment, he's like, I'll be blatantly honest with you, Bong has the brightest spark out of everyone. And he's a very chipper fellow. Like, he's a very happy fellow. Bong is a very happy fellow all the time. But it's not just about like a bright spark. It's a physical essence of their soul. It's something that Lamb can see, and it has grown. Like, you've grown as a person, but he's like, it's something else entirely that they're not quite able to grasp quite yet. But he's just like, believe me when I say that, like, you have grown, and this spark is nurtured within you. And he's like, I want to assist in any way I can. And so he goes, I have managed to find information about all of you. And so he's like, I'm going to privately talk to you one by one. So they're like, yeah, okay, cool, that's fine. And so he speaks to Bong first. Bong has already started his kind of journey into discovering himself and what's going on and everything like that. So Lamb's like, are you happy for me to discuss what I believe would help you here? Yeah, sure. And so he discussed, I've seen, you've now got that spark in you has grown because I believe you've greater accepted who you are, and you're learning and you're growing and your skill set's growing, and you're more aware of like who you are and your beings and stuff like that. And he's like, I saw ghosts. And he's like, yep, okay, Bong. He's like, no, I saw ghosts. And he explains, his great grandfather's. And they're like, oh. He's like, cool. Yep, that's probably why. And he's like, well, I think that journey you're on is the start of something worthwhile, and you should continue with that. And believe you will, like, if you see a town or something like, yeah, definitely see artifacts of orcish nature. And she's like, yeah, cool. And he goes, cool, I need to speak to it was either Helvig or Xurian, so we'll go with Helvig. And so he takes them away from the campfire, and they go into a private area away from earshot from everyone else. And so the rest of the party is very, they're like, yeah, we're not going to pry. They have the ability to, but they're not going to, because they're polite and they like each other, and that's how our friends do. And so he's like, takes over Helvig, and they have their private discussion, which I will not discuss here, obvious reasons, because it's kind of spoilers. So it's that gets transpired, and then the same thing happens with Luxurian, and then Fleur gets hers. And yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lynn. I'm getting to the fact that I'll speak to you about yours privately. I'll write it, but yeah. So that's when Lamb's like, cool, this is how I can help you by giving you information and stuff like that. And so like, awesome, thank you. That's actually very handy. And so they're like, we're going to. So Amelia and Zidane, while the private chats are happening, they're like, yep, we're going to keep going. And they venture off. They're like, yep, we're good to go. Once the party has their chat with Lamb, and Lamb gives them the kind of, thing about, the Grey Man and everything, he's like, for now, focus on what you're doing. I believe one day this may become something you need to acquire and do. Like, I would like you if you could. And they're like, yep, sure. Like, if we can somehow learn to fight a demigod, cool, be cool. But like, demigod. So they're like, all right, cool. And so they proceed onwards. It's not long before they make it to the small fishing village of Tubacorn. They arrive in the Helvig. Oh, I can't believe I forgot. Wow. Sorry, my dumb ass brain. back when they rescued Friesian, they killed the hill giants. Friesian's like, I need to go tell my commander about what has happened. Like, this is, we need to get word out, right? Because everyone dies. He's like, I need to let them know what's happening. He's like, can I please go and send them a recount of everything that's happening? And they're like, yeah, but he's like, but I need to write down every detail. You know, as a police report, he's like, I need to not omit any details. It'll have your names, it'll have what you look like, it'll have like how you fought and stuff like that. Like, they're like, yep, whatever, that's fine. Like, do what you need to do. And he's like, thank you so much. And he's like, he bolts. He's like, I'm out. I need to make it back to Anvil. And so he begins his journey to Anvil. Sorry, forgot about that. That's why he's not with them now. And so he departs and goes back to Anvil, and he's like, I need to tell his commander Prethrax. And he's like, Prethrax is like disgustingly strong. He's like really, really strong. So he's like, if you ever get to Anvil and you want to beat him, go for it, because like he is insanely strong. You know, you can tell that like Friesian looks up to him really well, and he's like, you know, I really respect my commander. He's a Dragonborn, but he's like larger than any other Dragonborn he's seen. He's just like built like a brick shithouse. And so they're like, yeah, cool, sweet. Sorry. So back to we go. They make it to Tubicor. They make it back to the fishing village of Tubicor, and they're like, awesome. Like, we've made it here. Let's get settled. What do we do and stuff like that. So they first find that there's a bar called the Pale Kraken, and then they also find another tavern. Tavern is the word. Fantasy tavern. Tavern. They find two taverns. One is the Pale Kraken, and that is an actual tavern. Then they find one that is a kind of front, and that is where the guild hall is. And the guild hall is called the Cry of the Moon. And so they discover both of them, and they're like, awesome, we know which one it is. Helvig's like, we've been through shit, I'm going to get a drink. And it's like, that is 100% fair. You can do that. So he goes inside the Pale Kraken, and he meets Shob, who is the large orcish man who is the owner and proprietor of the Pale Kraken. And so he's got himself and two of his maids, two of his his barmaids that go out to help the feed and give the food and the water and drinks and all that stuff. So it's only the three of them. But it's pretty busy at the time, because if you think about it, like, yeah, there's a lot of people in this guild that are right below them. This is the only place where like it's a proper kind of barista, or not barista, but a brewster. No, that's not even it. Makes ale. An actual tavern keep who knows how to make proper drinks. So it gets frequented very much. So they get there and they basically like, hey, like, we're here for this, and he's like, oh, yep, awesome, like, yep, if you wanna go, a brewer. Thank you. That's the one, a brewer. Jesus Christ. And so he goes, yeah, awesome, like, let's go back. He's like, funnily enough, at 5:30 every day, there's a meeting in the guild down below. During this meeting, like, they go over how the war front's transpiring in the forest, like what's going on, everything that's happening and stuff like that. And so, like, he's like, at 5:30 the bells will ring, and that's when everyone like will depart here and they'll go down there. And so he's like, man, I wish I had more help. And then, you know, Helvig's like, well, Charles can help. He's like, sends his zombie Charles Battler in. He's like, do you want him to help? And Charles is like, yeah, like, master, whatever you want, like, I'll do it. So he's like, Shob's like, dude, yeah, please, I'll take help. Like, it's fine, I'll pay you and everything like that. And he's like, yeah, sweet. So Charles is like, yeah, I'll stay here as long as you want. Like, I'll do some barkeep and stuff. Just another skill set for like Charles to learn. And he's like, cool. So he leaves Charles behind and, you know, becomes a tavern keep as well and a barman. And so they're like, oh, cool, awesome. So he's going to start getting passive income that way. And so the last thing that they notice is on the wall there is a kind of incredibly large, and it's huge, fishing pole. And it's the handle is, it's a very thick handle, like larger than your normal person would be able to hold. And so, you know, Bong's like, oh, that for some reason is calling to me. He's like, I want to like grab that, touch her. And so Shob's like, well, yeah, you can try it if you want, but do it later and stuff like that. So he's like, all right, cool, we'll do it later. 5:30 comes, and yeah, there is like bells stationed all around the actual village, and they all start ringing at once. So it's impossible not to hear the noise of what's going on. So once the bells go off, they're like, cool. They kind of like, I, I pictured the whole like Yumotep, but they were like congregating to like the cry of the moon at once. But they all go, everyone who's part of the militia, because it is just a normal village as well. So not everyone there is part of this militia. It's also people who are just also lived here before. And they happen to get like, well, we have all this extra food, all this people security, so like we're fine with it. So they go to the Cry of the Moon, and they venture downwards, and they discover their new guild, which is very exciting for them because it has all the amenities they would possibly need. So they go down there, they register at the front desk going, yep, here's my symbol. I am part of the collective. I'm part of this thing. And they're like, awesome, yep, your name's blah, 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 blah. And he goes, let's give you the quickest rundown of what's down here. So they're like, there's just here, it's run by fairies. Who look after the mushrooms and plants and stuff like that. So if you're into alchemy and potions, you can learn a bit about it here. We have the forge, and we have our blacksmith. She's awesome. Whatever you need, she'll be able to make for you, and she has her right-hand man who helps as well with repairs. We have a archery and a battle station where you can train if you want to train your armaments and everything like that to just get better at what you do. We have up the very top, and there's a map of it. There's a map in everyone you can see like through Roll20 when we do our sessions. But up the top is where the sleeping quarters are for like the majority of people. There's just sleeping bags on floors that are kind of like thickened ones, so it's not as you're just sleeping on the floor, like bedrolls, but a bit better. But they're all on the floor. And then you go around to the left, you've got the mess hall where you've got all where you can eat your food and everything like that. There is the kitchen, which is run by 3 beautiful people who are like, yep, they know how to cook like on the spur of the moment. They remember everyone's orders if you're there often enough. And then you have essentially what is kind of the main office, the main head office area that is cordoned off, or it's not cordoned off, there's doors that shut, and that is the guild leader runs that. So they're like, cool, there's the guild leader there. So Amelia and Zidane are the owners, and they have created this guild, but they've left someone in charge while they're not there, because of course they know one's going to be there. They're dealing other things. So they've put someone else in charge. So that is essentially on. There's one more room, which is there's more beds, bunks, but they're more posh ones, so they're more comfortable ones, so like the actual beds, I should say, the actual bunk beds. So there's more of those as well. So the meeting happens. It goes to the 5:30. Everyone gathers in the mess hall. There's a small stage at the end where you can see that obviously someone's going to come out and give a speech about something. So everyone's kind of, holy shit, everyone's kind of like standing there, waving my hands around too much. Everyone's standing there waiting to see what's happening, and a red tiefling kind of walks out with his really chest out, bravado, kind of really very confident looking man, and has a meek kind of like scrawny human next to him with big glasses, and he's holding a large, kind of really large binded book in his arms. And so this tiefling walks out, and he's like, everyone who hasn't met me, my name is Varan, and I am the leader of the Cry of the Moon. But after he's incredibly cocky, he's just like, you will do what I say, I am in charge, I am the boss, like, I am beautiful, I am handsome, like, do what I say, essentially, I'm in charge, blah, 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 blah. So he's very cocky, very up at himself, and because he's been given, a bit of power, and he's just taken it to the nth degree, so he's like really on a power stride at the moment. And so he's like, cool, we've got some new recruits and everything like that, which is great, so all that type of stuff. And he's like, but let's get down to the brass tacks of it. He's like, we have a expedition that's leaving like now. Well, actually, it's one expedition, but it has 2 time slots to go. There's one leaving pretty much now, and one leaving in the middle of the morning, about 3 a.m. I think I remember. We have discovered the whereabouts of, within the forest, we have discovered the whereabouts of an enormous creature that is a bit of a worry, and we're worried that's a construct that is being made to kill us, and help the enemy. Quinn Rala, the Spider Queen, Amelia's sister. And so he's like, we need someone to go in there, investigate it, and you know, and if you get the chance, destroy it, like kill it. And he's like, it's an expedition of 10 people. It'll be 2 teams of 5. Do we have any volunteers? So immediately, a bunch of people put their hands up, and this is including of the party. The party's like, well, yeah, let's do it. Like, let's get this shit started. Oh yeah. So the party's like, yep, let's do this. Like, we're raring to go. And so they're like, well, why don't we do the? We've been out and quite a bit. Why don't we take a rest and we'll do the early morning session. And so they're like, yeah, well, we can do things around here. Bong wants to go discuss the fishing pole and stuff like that. So that's what they decide to do. So the first group of 5 go out, and they go immediately, like there and then. And our party splits up for a bit and does different things. The main thing of note is Bong goes back to Shob's Pale Cracker Tavern, and he grabs the pole, and it's like you know straight away when he's holding it, it's like, okay, it's thick and round because it's designed for someone with a larger hand, so it fits fine for him. Anyone that's not an orc or someone that's smaller would struggle holding this. Like, it's a kind of like a 2-hand situation. So he's like, can I go give it a shot? I feel like this is something that I really want to do. And, Shob's like, yeah, it's a family heirloom. So if you want, or family heirloom. So he's like, it's been in my family, but, if you can bring it back, that'd be great. So he's like, sure. So he goes to the pier, finds one that isn't having a boat docked on it. And he basically just, leave his back and just cast it as far as he can go. And he's basically just letting the actual thing bob in the water. And, he's like, is anything happening? And then within his mind, he can see spirits, but his comrades can't. So it just looks like he's talking to, air. And I mean, Fleur already does that because she's a quarry soul in her head. So she's like talking to herself all the time. And so he does actually discover 2 more of his ancestors, which was really exciting. So he does discover Hanog, who was the one he was talking to just then, and Mogusk. And so they're 2 more of his great grandfathers, and they're brothers. So they're his uncles essentially. But the 2 of them are brothers, and so. Hanog's like the fisherman one. He's like, that is my fishing rod. Obviously, just over time, it's been sold, pawned off, and it's ended up in this tavern. He's like, awesome that you found it. He's like, if you want to try and keep it, go for it. It's no sentimental value to him because now they've established this connection. He's like, cool, we can communicate now. It's fine. We've broken that barrier by finding a family heirloom that I was tied to, and so I can do that. And he goes, but my brother Mogusk had a sword. He's like, that was his kind of like prized possession. He's like, if you want to speak to him, you're best to find the sword. And he's like, gives a description of what it looks like, and Bong's like, yeah, I can, I'll keep an eye out for that because he's still in the search for orcish artifacts. So he's like, awesome, cool, thank you for that. And he's like, if you ever need help with fishing, essentially, I'm your ancestor. So it means that whenever he wants to do any type of like fishing, casting, or anything to do with like aquatic capture of some description, he can do it with advantage if he channels Mogusk. Oh, sorry, Hanog. He takes the fishing rod back to Shob, and Shob's like, I guess you can keep it if you can do like a small favor for me. He's like, my partner's grave is not too far from here in the forest, and he doesn't really get the chance to go to the forest. He's like, could you plant some flowers there for me? And Mom's like, yeah, I can do that. That's all good. Thank you. I'm happy to do that. And he's like, I will basically give you back your fishing rod, and if I can keep it by doing this task, he's like, yeah, that's fine. Go for it. That's all good. He's like, sweet. All that finishes up, and then the party is ready to have a small rest, because they have to wake up in the middle of the night, essentially. They go and rest. They take a long rest. Ha! Look, I did it. Finally used that channel name. Take a long rest, And they wake up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. ready to go. They exit out of the hole, make it to the out of the Cry of the Moon, and they make it to the starting, or the middle of the town. And they notice that there's like a very kind of large armored paladin who's standing there. Enormously orange mustache that comes all the way out. He's like twirling, and he's like a really long one. He's got like slicked back hair and everything like that. Very puffed out chest, very pompous looking man. And they basically go like, "Oh, who are you?" And he's just like, "Oh well, it's fun. It's great to meet you all." He's like, "Well, if you must know," and it's just where he's like, "My name is Louis Arcanus Manuel Esquire the Fourth." And immediately Luke's just like, "His name's Lame Four," and I was like, "Yeah, his name's Lame Four." And he has the very much like when he's like, "Don't worry, I will take care of everything. You don't have to worry about it. Gosh darn thing, I will kill every monster. I'm a famous monster hunter. You would have heard of me. I've been in so many things. I've killed dragons. I've killed werewolves. I've done this. Like, there's no beast out there that I can't kill." And he's like, really like, "I'll lead the charge." And he kind of just wanders off, and he's like, "Follow me," and beckons them on. They're like, "Oh, okay, great. You got this like twat with us now." And so they head into the forest. Uh, Louis is like being overly like ambitious with like just hacking away at leaves and vines and stuff like that, because it's a very dense forest, but like the path they're on is well worn, so like there's no foliage in the way to get in the way, but he's still like hacking away at things next to him, just pretending like he's doing shit. Like he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. This could obviously become an issue." And he's just hacking away at bushes, and they're like, "We hate this guy." And I was like, "I'm glad you do. I love him." And so like he's like hacking away at bushes and just being real extra about everything he does. And they get to the point where it starts to become less jungle. Less jungle, less forest, and they can see actual bits of where the path diverges in different areas, and it becomes like sort of cavernous. So there's like the actual route goes down, and you can see the walls around them start to come up, so they can come between some caverns and stuff like that. And at the very top of the area, they can see that that's where the grave was going to be. And so Louis is like looking over the edge. He's just like, "Oh, it's a bit of a small drop," but he's like, "Don't worry, I could probably handle it." Helvig's like, "I want to kick him so bad." He's like, "I want to kick him off that ledge. Will he take damage?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's about 30 feet down, so he'll take like the 3d10 or 3d6, the 3d10 like the fall damage." He's like, "Oh, I'm this close to doing it. Should I do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, go for it, man. It's up to you. You've got free agency here. I'm not going to say, no, don't do it. He's my NPC. Man, I'm not being tiring. If you want to kick his ass, kick his ass. I don't give a shit." And so he gets right behind him, and he gives him like a shove. And he's like, "Oh," he falls, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I hear nothing. I'm like, "Oh, shit. What have we done?" It is at this time where I introduced something that had just been released, and I have altered it, like I said before, I was saying I did. But essentially, a dense fog starts to roll in around their ankles. Although mist, I should say. And so it kind of like comes behind them, and they feel a chill in the air, and they're all like, "What the hell? Why is it so cold?" All of a sudden, they can start seeing the breath in front of them. They're like, "Nope, that's not okay. That's weird and odd." The trees around them start to shift and die. You can see the kind of leaves like immediately start turning from like crisp green to like the browns and orange, and then the dead browns, and fall to the floor. And they're like, "Oh, yep, something's not right." They turn around, and there's just a wall of fog just kind of like envelops them. As it envelops them, they kind of like can't see too well because it's like blinding them and stuff like that. But when it kind of dissipates past them, and then they can see again, the area surrounding them, it's still the same kind of like layout, but it is destroyed. And I mean, like, the trees are dead and they're overhanging, but also the horrified looking faces are actually melded into the actual trunks of the trees, and they're all contorted, so when they're looking at the trees, it looks like a tree is screaming, and like it's following them as well. So like when they're moving, they can kind of like, they think they can kind of see the eyes of the trees like kind of watching them when they go. And the ground is dead, you know, there's pathways, there's broken cobblestone everywhere, and they're like, whoa, we're not in Kansas anymore. And so they are in, essentially it's like a haunted forest. It's dead, desolate, dead. Like, there's no creatures to be seen. They can't see any sign of life. And there's a dense, thick mist that kind of envelops where they're walking. And they all go, swear I can kind of feel something moving underneath me. And so they have this kind of mist that's permeating, and it's permanently below where they are. And so they're like, right, cool. This isn't okay. This isn't normal. And so they're like, well, let's proceed onwards. We kind of have to. And so they all feel kind of gross. Like, they all feel real negative. They don't feel negative, but they feel like there's negative emotions are waving over them whenever they're walking around. They all feel like this is a area that is riddled with the feel of death. They're all hating the feel of it, except our one lovely necromancer, who is a master of death and is like, I feel at home. I feel more at home here than I have felt in a long time. The atmosphere suits him. Everything about this is like, he's like, I am loving this. And to the rest of them are like, I am all hating this with every fiber of my being. So it was a good contrast between the two of them. So they start walking along this path they see in the forest that has been kind of like used at one point, like quite frequently, but obviously not anymore. There's leaves kind of hanging over it, and you can see that like the cobblestones are broken and smashed and shattered and stuff like that. So it is still like used, but it's not anymore. They actually on the way also find a kind of broken statue of Mr. Witch as well. So it's had its head taken off, and it looks like it's been like literally shoulder rammed into by some great beast, or some great force has like rammed itself into this like statue to kind of topple it over into the ground and break into pieces. But they're like, that's a statue of Mr. Witch. It's really weird that's here. But they do keep the head. So they pick up the head of the statue, and they're like, I'm going to keep this, and they put it in their bag of holding, I believe, that Helvig has. And they proceed onwards. This is when two of them discover that Helvig's like, I'm gonna put my hand into the mist and see what's going on. I was like, yep, go for it. So he shoves his hand like gently into it, and he puts his hand down onto the ground that they've been walking on. And I was like, you actually feel the ground beneath you start to shift a little bit. Like your hand actually starts to move, and you're like watching your hand move along the ground with it. I'm like, you definitely hit something rock hard, like concrete, and that is kind of vibrating and it's shifting at the same time. And he's like, oh, right. Like he's like, can I pick something else? Like, yeah, so he picks a rock up, and nothing. He picks it up as a normal rock. But he explains what he felt, and so they're all like, whoa, I don't like that. Bong's like, oh, I want to try. And so he puts his hand down and feels the same sensation where he's just like, oh, yeah, it's literally like, puts his hand down and it just starts moving, like he's touched the top of a turtle or something like that. And it starts moving, and they're like, oh, yeah, okay, that's a bit odd. So they're like, well, let's like kind of proceed onwards because I don't like that. But yeah. They get a bit further, and they see there's a carriage that's been destroyed and broken down, and some of the actual barrels and stuff that were on it have been shattered and broken off onto the ground. So they go through it and actually find weapons and armor, but they're vastly too small to fit any of them. In fact, they're very odd shaped because the armor is like a vest, but it doesn't cover the front, so it's opened at the front. It still has like pauldrons and stuff, but it doesn't cover the front. And you can see that the kind of little gauntlets and stuff like that are very tiny, but they're curved as well. And that the what are the feet ones called? Well, the armored boots actually at the same time are very elongated. So like they're that long and they're very thin. So it's like thin and long, and they're like, what manner of creature wears this type of armor? And Fleur, who has been accustomed to the Fae and has visited before, goes, oh, I have heard of these creatures before. And she's like, it's Haringons. Like, what the hell is a Haringon? And they're large rabbit folk. So rabbit folk that are on two legs and kind of like their own race now. They can walk around, they talk and stuff like that. Kind of like the white rabbit from Alice, but if you was to stand, the hare, sorry, kind of stands up and becomes battle ready. And so they're like, all right, that's a bit weird. They do hear something in the, like, kind of like whispering down there, kind of jump down. So like where they are on the actual path, there is a hill that descends downwards, and they're like, I wonder how deep it is. Bong's like, I'm gonna throw rocks. He throws a rock, and it's just like, it just goes and goes and goes and goes, and it keeps falling and tumbling, 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 until he hits a point where you hear like clunk of it. It's a splash of water, and they're like, well, let's not fall down there, shall we? And so they proceed onwards a bit further. Once they go a little bit further, because I do see some bloody kind of like this blood trail that's leading up there, to like, well, something could be hurt. They do go a bit further upwards, and they see in the very corner there's something kind of like attacking and ripping at the spider webs. So they get to this next part of the forest, and there's spider webs everywhere. Spider webs everywhere, and kind of like nests and actual walkways that these spiders are obviously using between the trees. And they're like, oh, okay. And they can see in the corner something frantically ripping at, like something wrapped up in spider webs. And it's like ripping away at them. It's pretty far away, so they're like, what the hell is that? They're like, well, let's try and sneak over to it. So they sneak over very well. Actually did really well, because like that was I won't lie, that there was a whole fight there if they didn't stealth well, because like all the spiders were in the trees. They managed to get through it all successfully, which is awesome. And then they get to the corner. They can see there's a large Haringon like attacking this cocoon, or this like wrapped up entity inside this spider web. And they're like, oh, Wen, like, let's help you out. So they kind of like use a knife and realize it's like, Wen, this is really thick, like way thicker than they've had like before. But they managed to, roll strength really well and get through it. And they kind of pry it open. They see there's another Haringon in there, and they're like, well, let's get it to safety. Let's do that. And so they, the Haringon that's with them, it's like, don't worry, we'll get you back to we'll go back to my village. Like, we need to go now. Like, he is like super stressed, and he's like, no, like patting his leg, his foot on the ground, like he's like, we need to go like now. The Prowler's coming. They're like, what the fuck is that? He's like, we need to go now. So they pick up the hurt Haringon, and the new one explains, he's just like let's go now. And they're like, okay, I guess we're off. And so he explains on the way, he's like, his name's Edrit, and he's like, we're going to my village. Like, he's like, let's go. So they venture off very quickly. They kind of like speed walk the whole thing. They get close to the village, and then Edrit's like, we need to hide now. And they're like, what? And he's like, hide. And they all jump into the bushes. And so like they quickly jump, one after the other. They roll stealth, and they all successfully roll stealth bar one. And this is where shit gets real heavy. Poor Oxurian doesn't roll well enough to kind of like have the opportunity to roll. He doesn't have the opportunity to kind of hide. So the rest all like dived into the bushes, and they're like hiding. Oxurian's like, whoa, shit, like, I'm going to do the same thing. It rolls poorly. I think he rolled, like, less than 8 or 6 on both. And so both these stealth rolls failed. So he's just like, shit. He's, like, panicked, like, what do I do? And so he feels, like, this hot breath behind him as he turns around. And what he sees in front of him, and I'll describe it as best as I can to remember, is just an enormously large, like, 15 to 20-foot wolf. But not just any wolf. So it's more in its face, with the glowing yellow eyes, covered in thick black maggy fur. But the rest of its body, and apart from its paws, I should say, and its tail, the rest of its body, so from like the neck, back of its nape, the nape of its neck, down to the main body of it, like the rest of its like stomach area, is translucent, and it's like a black oily translucent, and you can see through it, where you can see the rib cage and the bodies and pelvis of this giant wolf, and the organs that are actually inside of this thing kind of just slop sitting there. So it's really ominous and horrifying to look at. It's a monstrosity that they're witnessing in front of them. And so they're looking, and this like wolf is like just eyeing off Uxorium. And the wolf actually asks him, like, he's like, I'm gonna give you one chance to like answer me. He's like, have you seen this Harengon? And he's like, no, I haven't seen it. Rolls for deception, rolls terribly. So 3 terrible rolls in a row. And he's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. This is your last chance to like admit. And he's like, nope, don't know anything about it. Unfortunately, the wolf does not take kindly to this. Uxorium is only 3.5 feet. He's very short. And so this wolf literally opens its maw. Can you see like the saliva dripping between the teeth and the top and the bottom? All it does is this basically, we'll pretend it's Uxorium, gets its maw over the top of him, and you can see like the snout and the back kind of like teeth like this. Oh, how do you do it like that? They reach the ground, so you can see the fronts of the teeth are on this side of the ground, and then the back side of the ground, and you've just got like Uxorium standing like an arch, like in between these 2 sets of teeth, like this. It doesn't chomp down. He does something vastly worse to poor Uxorium. Uxorium kind of feels cold, and a deep chill runs over him, and he kind of like, his mouth opens up, and you actually see like this very beautiful, like a very omnipresent, beautiful blue orb leave out of his mouth and actually go up into the esophagus through the throat of the wolf and into its body, and then Uxorium's body just lifelessly falls to the ground, and he is dead. At this point, he's dead. And so they're all like dead silent. Like, did it happen? And you can see this soul of Uxorium now within the stomach of this wolf, kind of floating around the heart of the wolf. As you can see, the heart is like red and glowing and beating, and the soul is like kind of circling it. But the poor thing is, at this point, the soul is, you can see, instead of being that kind of nice round circular sphere look to it, it's being stretched and pulled and like actually ripped apart, and you can see little bits being ripped off. So whenever it kind of stretches it, a little bit of it is like fully taken off, and then that bit gets absorbed into the wolf. It's at this point that the 3 comrades all at once are like charge at once to try and rescue Uxorium. Bong immediately jumps out, full bursting rage, the most rage we think we've seen out of this young lad this entire campaign. Jumps out immediately to take on the wolf. Fleur does the exact same thing. She like rushes to grab Uxorium's body, and we have Helvig who's like, I'm going to try and get the soul back. So he steps into the wolf. So as Helvig steps into, Misty steps inside of the wolf itself, he's now inside of he successfully does it, only because Bong manages to crit basically he gets his club and just winds it up like a baseball bat and smashes it into the face of this wolf as hard as he's ever done, just to try and get something out of this wolf to distract it enough that his comrades can do what they need to do. It did work. The wolf was kind of taken aback as it like reels back. It doesn't screech in pain, but like it does, like it gets hit. It's like bulls its head. It bangs its head back. Fleur flies over it and like just bolts as quick as she grabs Uxorium's body and runs to the other side of this this path, which gives the opportunity for Helvig to be inside of the wolf and start to try and retrieve the soul. But he tries to grab it, realizing that he can't quite grab it. It's not a tangible item. Well, it's not a tangible item. It's not. It doesn't have a physical body, so he's like grabbing it. Just goes phases through one hand and through the other, and keeps circling around. He's like, shit, what do I do? Bong's like, did that do any damage to him? And the wolf just kind of arcs its head back down and just smiles at him. It's there that the wolf gives like this guttural, horrifying howl that is a mixture of all of the poor souls and creatures and people that it has absorbed screaming at once. So when it screams out, it's multitudes of like animals and people, and just like the cries for help are like just cascading out of its mouth at once towards Bong. And it's just a true horror to hear and witness, and they're all like covering their ears like, this is a horrifying creature. And so we have growth within our party as they come together and they're like, I need to figure out, like, we need to like really do this. Bong channels Rock, going, does he have a crit spotting? Like, I need to, like, I want to help him. As he's figuring that out, Helvig manages to, within his mind, create a solution using necromancy, and manages to actually get a hold of the soul. Like, he manages to, like, his hand changes a bit and kind of transmogrifies itself a little bit. He manages to actually grab the soul. So he has it in his hand. It's still getting ripped to shreds and stuff while he's holding it. And then lastly, Fleur actually fuses with her quarry soul. And so when she actually fuses with her quarry soul, this is the first time she's done it. So she accepts Ilya and goes, we need to work together. And they fuse their minds together to become one. This is the first time that she's done this, and what does transpire after that is you can see that she kind of like, she like starts to like move around. You hear bits clink and clank and stuff like that. Bones start to snap and rejoint themselves and everything. She kind of like gets a bit taller, but a bit more of a like lean over, and then these large skeletal wings kind of like burst out of the back of her shoulder blades, and actually like fully elongate themselves out, and they have like this black tarry goop that is like running down them as well. It's like falling onto the ground, and it's like this membranous wings she's now like has on her, like give it like the ability to move like the wind. And so she has these wings attached to her, now part of her. And so all at once they manage to do a coordinated kind of like movement and attack where they're like, let's do this all at once. And so we have Fleur manages to attack alongside Bong, the actual wolf, which at the right time is enough to, well, damage it and actually kind of like put it off guard enough that it actually like full on like gets taken over and it like topples over a tiny bit, and it's like, oh shit, like it actually felt that one, which is all the time Helvig needed to quickly fully dislodge the soul from the wolf and escape out of there. And so the three of them, and now the Rengon, are standing in front of this wolf, and the Rengon's like, fucking run, like, you just run. Bong wants to keep going, but you know, they're all like, no, go. And so they run as far as they can. The Harengon leading the way to this village. The wolf still taken aback from the kind of beating it just got by all three of them at once. And so they're running towards this village as quickly as they can. They manage to just make it through the gates as the Harengon's like, quick, close the gates. And they're like, you can see that on the other side they're rolling the chains. The chain riders are going as quickly as they can as like this large iron gate door shuts, and you can hear the slam of this giant wolf just slam itself against it, and just howl that horrible, disgusting howl again. But it leaves after that. It actually does not try to continue its pursuit. It leaves, and so they're all like, "Oh, holy shit! Like that just happened! Like holy fucking shit!" But then they realize that like we've got Auzurian soul and body, and they get the soul close enough to the body that it does, thankfully, still have enough life left in it that it it does take back to the body and goes, this is my corporeal form and my ethereal form, and they rejoin together, and Exorian wakes up after a tiny bit. Unfortunately, due to the kind of torture that was being subjected to the soul of Exorian within this prowl of this wolf, he was a changed man. When he came to and he was kind of looking around, his personality kind of shifted and warped to the point where he was like, I don't feel the same. I don't feel like I'm the same person anymore. And he's like, I see these people around me instead of comrades as just acquaintances. He's like, they happen to be here and I'm with them, but I don't view them as friends anymore. He's like, everything around him, he's like, his viewpoints of things are very skewed and shifted. And he's like a more kind of, not really like you would say negative, but more of a like standoffish person. He's more of a like, well, is it what's in this for myself? Whereas before, he's like, I'm in love. Like, he's like, I love nature, I love animals, I love healing and helping people. But now he's just like, what's in it for me? Like, are you gonna help me? Or like, do I have to help you? Or are you gonna do this? Like, that kind of mentality. He's like, he's shifted his personality fully like 180 essentially. And so when he's talking to him, he's like, the fuck happened? And they're all like, oh my god, you're alive and stuff like that. He's like, no, I don't care. What the fuck happened? Because he remembers nothing of what happened. And no one's explained it to. Bong tries to in the Bong way, which is very much like a child trying to explain something. You're like, 10% of what you told me in that story, I got. 90% of it is fluff and was not necessary, and I don't have my answer still. So we love him for it, but it's true. He's just like crying. He's like, sorry, this happened, and he's just like, all right, man, you can stop crying. It's fine. But you're not gonna help me. And so, it's at this point they're inside of this village that they learn about Louis. So Louis was in the village, and he walks out and he looks to be a little bit injured. He kind of walks out with a limp, and he's kind of holding his arm. And he's like, oh, comrades, you found the village. Like, oh my god, I'm glad you're safe. He's like, I fought that wolf and I beat him off and I made it here, no problems, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was easy. And they're all just like, fucking what? You talking shit again, mate? And he's just like, but yeah, well, I actually found out that up north actually that's where that construct is that we've been tasked with finding is, and so the party's like, well, can we just like take a breather first and then we'll decide what to do with that? So they do that. Louis is like, well, unfortunately I've really injured myself. I can't help you going up there and stuff like that. So he's like, if you're gonna do it, you'll be on your own. And they're like, sure, no worries. And so. They have a rest, and Exorian's still kind of like trying to grasp. He feels completely different. He's like, I don't feel the same person anymore. This is not great. I'm pretty upset. I'm pretty angry. I'm pretty pissed off about a lot of things. And so he does have like a kind of tiff with a lot of them. Doesn't really like help him and stuff. So that's what happens then. They have a rest. They make their way to the village, and they learn about two things. They're in Ilmorn village, which is the village that the Harengons took over when this has happened. So the forest was not always like this. It's over the course of time slowly started dying and shifting into this horrific nightmare that is happening around them. What has also unfortunately happened because of this is a thing called ill will. So during the many rolls our characters had, I had them roll 2 numbers each, and just a number, sorry. And what would happen is, if they were standing in the fog, or the mist I should say, the one that permeates the feet, they would be subjected to ill will, which would mean that when they're doing any type of rolls outside of like combat ones don't count. So like if you're doing attack rolls, stuff like that, checks for combat, that's different because you're in like adrenaline mode. But like checks for stealth and stuff like that, you have to deduct this number that you rolled for. Exorian rolled really badly both times, so he had a huge negative modifier on his rolls. Except Helvig, he got a positive modifier because he is basically reveling in this nightmare-fueled abomination area, and he's loving every moment of it. So he was like, he gets a positive, everyone else gets a negative. So they're like, they have a rest, and they're like, well, let's proceed onwards, let's go onwards. So they go up. The Harengon Edric goes, I can take you to where I know it is, but I can't go too much further because there's singing. And the singing is actually ominous, dark, and so piercing to our ears, because the rabbits have good hearing, that I physically will be in pain going too much further. So he gets to the point where you can vaguely hear the singing, and for him, he'd be like, nope, it's right next to me. He's like, I'm done, out, bye. He says, keep going north. So the party's like, alright, cool, let's keep going. They continue their journey upwards, and the singing does increase in volume, and they get to a large opening of the forest that's been kind of pushed down, and there's trees and stuff like that have been moved out of the way to make this large area that's kind of plain down. And they see just an enormous wooden structure, and before them is a wicker man, a very, very large wicker man. If I believe I made him about 90 to 100 feet tall, so he's a gargantuan size as far as D&D rules go. So he's huge. So there's this wicker man standing there with a glowing gem in his chest. It's fluctuating between like yellow, red, and green. Yes. And then down the bottom of it, you can see that there is a kind of like a small gathering of women, kind of with floral dresses and headdresses that are made of flowers on, dancing around this wicker man, like in a circular formation. They all have their arms linked, and they're all like merrily singing around this giant construct. And so the party's like, whoa, well, we found the construct. Very ominous. Creepy singing women around this giant thing. Except Bong's like, because he was obsessed with music, he's like, oh, they're singers. I'm a performer. Maybe they'll like it if I perform for them. And just walks over and goes, I'm rolling for performance. Pulls out his bongos and starts playing. And everyone's like, hey, okay. Yep, cool, sweet. That's happening. He rolls decent-ish for Bong, because I think he's got a huge negative modifier to his performance. I think it's -3. It's really hard to get that, but he has it. And so, like, he performs a semi-okay ballad, and one of the they all stop. They all stop singing and dancing immediately when he starts playing his bongos and music. The one that's closest to him in the circular formation faces him and starts walking down, and she's just standing there staring at him as he's playing his bongos, like, away. He's just so happy. He's like, oh my god, she loves my performance and stuff like that. And they start dancing along to it. And so he's like, oh, look, they do love it. Like, look at me go. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's still weird. But all right. So he's playing his performance, and he finishes his performance. And they're like joyously singing and dancing to him. And then they stop. The one that's in front of him holds out her hand in a very gentle, kind of like gentle gesture for Bong to hold her hand. Bong was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess it's alright, I guess. And so they're all like, no, don't do it. And he's like, oh, puts his hand in it, and unfortunately it's not pleasant. So the actual woman, kind of like her jaw like unhinges like a snake and goes all the way down, and just decides to like projectile vomit bile onto Bong right in front of him, and he's just like trying to release his grip from this woman, but she's like wrapped her like hands around his, and they're all like, oh, for fuck's sake, all right. And so he's been hurt by this. And so they're like, nah, alright, we need to do something about this. And so he's like, yep, let's fight him. So they actually go, alright, well, we're gonna have to fight these creepy women. So they initiate combat. Helvig flies up immediately, as he does, to get to the advantage point. Bong starts fighting the creepy women in front of him. and Fleur comes along to help. Uxorium, being a changed man, decides he's like, well, I think you guys have got this, and goes away into the bushes on the far left towards a treescape and just watches. Like, legitimately watches. As his friends are like, well, we gotta fight for our lives here. So they fight these women, and they've noticed that every time they kind of like destroy bits of them, that there's something writhing underneath the clothing and the actual like skin of these women. It's not until they actually kill a couple of them that once they do kind of like destroy them, that like an abundance of snakes actually burst out of them and slither their way into the actual construct. So they actually start filling the actual Wicker Man from the base of the feet. It's also at this time that they see the kind of jewel that's on the chest of this construct flash, and they can now see inside the construct. They can see someone inside there, like panically looking around, going, like, "Where am I? Oh my god, what am I doing in here? Like, get me the hell out of here! Like, I want out." And they're all like, "There's someone inside of there. That is not good. We need to get that person out of there." So Helvig's like, "Well, I can, into that. I can misty step into that thing if I need to." So he flies a bit closer as the other ones are slowly but surely picking off these dancing snake women one by one. And so they start, getting rid of them one by one, and they then go, "Cool, they're all dead." They actually pin some of them to the feet, also the ankle of the construct, and because they're wailing away at this, the women on it, Bong's actually hitting this construct's leg and trying to like break the construct's leg to try to like topple it over as well, just to get rid of it. And so that's what he's doing at the moment. And so they do manage to finish them all off, which is very, very handy for them. During that time, Helvig gets inside of the construct and actually manages to meet the person inside, who is someone called Moxie. He's a white-haired fighter that's like, "Yep, I don't know how I got here. I can explain to you later, but for now we gotta get out of here." And so they quickly get to the Chestal area. The gemstone front, they knock it out so it falls. And then they go up to the head area, and behind the head area is basically like, well, these are, how thick are the timber that's holding this construct together. I'm like, it's there's some large logs, but some are thinner stuff. So if you wanted to like break through, you could certainly do it. So they're like, well, what's the weakest part? I'm like, at the nape of the neck here, at the back of the head. And so they're like, cool. So they start wailing away and chiseling away, getting away, and they manage to break enough of the branches away that they're able to comfortably, or at least Helvig flies, but Moxie not so much. He can't fly. So he's like, well, I'm going to jump down. And so he climbs down the actual construct, gets to the floor between its feet, and he joins the fray of fighting some of the snake women alongside of the other four people. Uxorian sort of helps, if I remember right, during it, like just every now and again just goes, here's a spell or something. I remember, like, doesn't really take part in the combat whatsoever. They finish off the actual, like, the snake women, and they're all deceased now. But the snakes have, every time that they kill these women, the snake then go inside of the giant construct. And so Uxorian's like, not Uxorian, was it Uxorian? No, it was Helvig's like, who was it? Holy shit. I think it was Helvig. It's like, I'm going to burn them. Because, there's a lot of snakes in here, and like, I'm going to burn this thing alive. Like, let's just burn this shit to the ground. It's a Wicker Man, that's the point. Where if we burn it, it's just going to burn to the ground. And so it gets set alight. Unfortunately, okay, good. Thank you. I was right. It was Helvig. So he, unfortunately, as it is set alight, this was the catalyst needed to awaken it. And so what they've theoretically done is actually started part 2 of the fight that may not have happened, where the actual construct, the flames like rise all the way up to the top of it, and it becomes like a flaming crown on the top of its head as the flames burst out. As it bursts out, they're like, yeah, that's a bit better. As it kind of bursts out, they're like, uh-oh, there's a flaming 100-foot Wicker Man now that is like wanting to attack us. Like, fuck. So then they initiate combat on that, and Uxorion's now like, well, now I actually have to take part because this thing could kill me as well. And so they initiate combat on the constructs. Bong continues his efforts of trying to actually destroy the foot and trying to topple the thing over, because that's, it's a good idea to do. The rest of them are all using whatever spells they can use. So Helvig's in the sky throwing beams at it, and I think Uxorion uses Moonbeam as well. He transmogrifies himself, but all of them do what they need to do to actually fight this giant creature. It gets beaten. It gets like attacked really well, and they do a really decent amount of damage. But then it starts to actually utilize some of its powers and does a really massive, decent amount of damage to kind of like a few of them. It actually managed to reach down and grab Moxie, the new person who's just joined in, and like try and crush it in his hand as he's also on fire because it's a flaming Wicker Man. So he's like crushing him and on fire. So they're like, shit, we need to like help him out as much as possible. He's like, I am almost dead, like in one turn. Like, shit, help me out. So they managed to get him out of there. And the hand kind of lowers enough so he falls down to the ground, and Moxie's like, oh shit, man, I'm like almost out already. It gets to a point where it's very, very close to dying, and so it uses like a last of its strength to sweep, I think it was a sweep kick, as hard as it can, and it manages to make direct contact with Bong, and Bong gets flung like an exorbitantly large distance away and smashes into the tree lines, like in the forest, and just like shatters himself against it. And I think he's left with like 1 or 2 health. Like after that, he has like a massive amount of health, and it almost one hit KOs him, by like just like swinging itself into him. But that was its last ditch effort, as all it needed was a few more hits, and the actual construct perishes, and it falls down, onto the tree line. And so we're like, shit, get out of the tree line. And so they get out of the way of the tree line, as the contract falls down and it is dead. And they managed to actually, congrats on that. They actually managed to destroy it. And so they win that fight. Bong is like on death's door. Moxie is on death's door. They're both like, for the love of God, help me. Uxorion's like, oh, I guess I can give you a healing spell to help you out. And they're like, just fucking do it, man. And so he does heal him and help him out, begrudgingly. But Bong is still like, I am tired, I am beaten, I am bruised. You can heal me, but I'm still like, I'm so done. Also, we get introduced through Moxie. So Moxie is played by another person, Ryan, who's one of my mates, as he is cameoing it. Moxie explains that the gem that falls is his, and so he kind of gets it and picks it up, and he gives it to Fleur, I believe, and says, he's actually, like, unfortunately got a condition where he will teleport randomly anywhere without warning. He'll just be like, boom, I'm gone. He gets teleported somewhere else, and then after a certain amount of time, he will then teleport back to where the gem is. So wherever who is in possession of the gem at the time, or what's happening with it, that's who he'll come back to. So he's like, can you look after this? Because at least I know I'm coming back to you guys, like, to help. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And then, like, he's just like, oh shit, and he can feel the kind of like vibration, the magical vibration. He's like, all right, well, I'll say it. And he goes, hey, and he disappears. And they're like, oh, shit, well, he's gone, I guess. And so they're like, all right, well, we need to get out of here. As the construct perishes and they start to look around, the actual forest starts to kind of revert back into its original state. Um, to a degree. The trees are actually covered in snow and it's really cold around them. It's not the same chill that they felt being in like a desolate, dead forest. It's genuine cold. It's like snow, and so they're like, "Oh, I think we're back. Like we're back to where we were." And then they hear like a shriek above them, and this giant like winged vampire bat just lands below them, next to them, and they also see a werewolf just like barraging through the actual woods to get to them. As Amelia lands, and she's like, "Where the fuck have you been? Like, what? Where have you gone?" And they're like, "Well, we went into the forest, like a couple of hours ago, and now we're out." She's like, "No, you've been gone like a week." They're like, "What?" Like, "Yeah, you've been gone like a week." And they're like, "Oh, well, shizzle. What do we do about that?" She's like, "Well, let's get you back to Tubercorn like ASAP." She's like, "I need to quickly go help another set of party members who have just managed to make their way out too." She's like, I'll catch back up to you, but make your way back to Tubercorn." And so they get out of this part of the forest, they get back to Tubercorn, and they're like, Bong is like dragging his feet the whole time. He's like, "I am ready to pass out. Like, I am done." So they get to Tubercorn, and they make their way back, and they're like, "All right, shit, what the fuck was that?" And so they make their way in, and they immediately go, "We need to rest. We need to rest like ASAP." And so they go back and they rest, and Uxorian is still the changed man that he is, unfortunately. Um, Amelia gets back and she's like, "Well, I can help you by introducing you to a shaman. There's a shaman I know who may actually be able to help you with this." And he's like, "Yes, please, I don't want to be like this anymore. Like, could you help me?" She's like, "Sure, I can call her. Like, the minute she comes, I'll let you know." So they go home. They go back to the thing of the wolf. Except Helvig and Bong go back to the Power Kraken. And he's like, "I'm sorry, but like the flowers got like ruined when we were fighting shit." And he's like, "Oh no, it's fine actually. Like, I sent I sent Charles and he managed to go do it because you guys were gone for like a week and I weren't sure when you were going to come back. So I sent Charles and he went and did it. It was fine." They're like, "Oh, all right." And he's like, "So I'm fine if you want to take the the pole. It's yours." And he's like, "Sure." And he's like, "Yeah, you can have it." So Bong acquires the pole. So it's his fishing pole now. And then Helmig's like, how's Charles doing?" He's like, I, I, I really wish you would never take it back." He's like, "He's reorganized all my ale and mugs downstairs. He's like, he's wonderful with the customers and taking over stuff. He's like the perfect employee. He's done such a big help." He's like, "Can he please stay a bit longer?" And Helvig's like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "Fine." He's like, "Also, here's his week of wages," and he gives like 150 lure, I think. He's like, "Fuck yeah, money, sweet." Charles is so like in the zone with what he's doing. He doesn't actually even notice like Helvig and that walk in. He's like too busy helping tables and stuff. So like, okay, cool. So they exit. They go back to the Cry of the Moon, and they all get the rest they deserve. This is where we get to the final bit. We're actually at near the end. It's just saddening, but also the fact that we're going to keep playing, which is good. They wake up, and they go to get some breakfast. They hear a tiny bit of a bit of commotion as people enter. This very pale, in very purple witch's outfit and a large staff with a kind of amethyst on the top. She walks in with a warforged behind her, who's got a brass mustache and a brass top hat, and he kind of like walks with a limp. And you can see he's kind of like got like broken internals and a broken chestal cavity. You can see something sparking in the middle of it, kind of like his core nervous system is sparking. But he seems genuinely happy and he's smiling when he walks in, everything like that. And they sit down and they start having breakfast. And the other party members, they all sit down and have breakfast too. The commotion started because Amelia has arrived, as well as Zidane. And so Amelia comes down and she's like, "Oh, you're here. Awesome. I would like to introduce you to Aradia, who is the shaman." And like, she gestures to the witch. She's standing there. And also, this is, Rusty. And Rusty is at the Warforged, and he like stands up and he's like, does like the jitter of the hat and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, well, it's lovely to introduce you." And Aradia just goes, doesn't say anything. And so Amelia's like, explains everything that's happened to Aradia and goes, "Look, is there any way you can actually help a young friend here?" And she just goes, "Yes." And so, a bit. And so he's like, "Cool, let's get this done now. Like, I want to try and figure out what to do." And so Aradia's like, "Well, let's just go now." She doesn't actually say it. She does not speak much. So she's like, "Let's just go now." She kind of stands up and just grabs him by the hand and kind of walks out. And Luxurian's like, "Oh, all right, let's go." And so he just gets dragged out of there. And the rest of them are like, all right, bye, I guess, cool. And so they're like, "All right, well, we can finish what we're doing. We can catch up with Luxurian and we can do that." Helvig's like, "Well, actually, I want to go read and study some languages and study some extra stuff like that, what I can learn about artificers and everything." So he does that for a bit. And then after a little tiny bit, they all go, "Well, we're going to leave." So they proceed at the front. Oh, sorry. They make their way upwards, and Amelia's like, "Yeah, I'll meet you. I'll meet you up there. Like, I want to discuss what happened." And so they get up there, and Aradia's like, "Cool," sees him. She goes, "I'm gonna borrow Xorian." So she goes into the hut that's near her, and Rusty goes with her. Just before that, when they're having breakfast, I forgot to mention, they're having breakfast, and Rusty just goes, "Oh, uh-oh," and just goes, "I'm out of here," and kind of like speed runs out of there. And then there's this light, because like an EMP, and they just feel this like explosion go through, and they're like, "What the fuck was that?" They get up the top, and they can see Rusty is like sitting cross-legged in the middle of like the town. There's like a small like dust crater that he's created around him. He's like, there's an explosive mark around him, and he's just like stands up, brushes off, and he's like, "I hope he doesn't like cause any damage or stuff." But they witness that. So Aradia, Luxurian, and Rusty all go into this house, and then they go down a secret staircase leading to an alchemical kind of like dungeon that Aradia has created. In the corner is like a large test tube, and Rusty walks into it, kind of locks himself in it, and all of a sudden you can just kind of see like explosive lightning bolts happening through him, like he's releasing all this internal combustion that's happening. And it's just like over and over and over. Aradia asks for Luxurian to lay down on the bed. Dear God. Every time. And so, what was I saying? So they go downstairs, and they're all there to witness. Well, they don't want to see it, but I describe it in front of them. Basically, Aradia creates a. She gets many materials and uses Rusty's like explosive ability to form like two different colored hearts, one red and one blue. And when she makes it, together they make purple. And so she kind of like says cryptically she's going to mend your broken soul. Not going to fix it, but you can mend it so that you will start to recover who you were. And so she does that by making these two gemstone hearts, and actually pulls out Luxurian's soul out of his body, like fully like pulls it out. She fuses his hearts with it, and so like you can see the color of his heart, so it's got a bit more purple this time, and puts the soul gently back into Luxurian to kind of mend the kind of damage that was done to his poor soul. And so he's like, shit, like, thank you. Like, I feel a bit better already. So he starts to get his, you know, who he was back and everything like that. And so that actually really helps him. So he's on the mend now. So he kind of like comes out, walks at the top. Iradia's like, uh, he's fixed, sort of. And so Uxorian immediately apologizes for everything he said that he did. He's like, look, I didn't mean it. I fully like, my soul was not correct. Like I'm sorry about that. And so he's like, can we like try and move past it and stuff like that? Like, yeah, I guess. Helvig's like, you sure you're okay? You're not a prick anymore? And he's like, yeah, no, I'm not. He's like, you sure you're not a prick? And I was like, all right, man. You're really reaming him. And so he's like, yeah, no, I feel better. I'm on the mend now, which is good. And so it's just a band-aid fix. It's not a true fix. And Iradia's trying to think of a way to fully fix him. She'll try and figure it out, but yeah. So then they're like, explain to Amelia everything that happened. Like, they go in there, the forest changing, the ill will, the village, the construct, the Haringons, all of it. And she's like, that sounds like an anomaly called the Crooked Moon. For those who know about the Crooked Moon, it's the Legends of Evantris core book or DLC they released, which is all folklore. And the folk horror stuff I loved. Like, it was amazing. I was like, I want more of that. So what I've done is I've incorporated parts of it into the story, that the Crooked Moon is an event that takes part. Instead of it being the name of the DLC, it's an event that has transpired once before, previously in time. And what it does is, it's something when enough darkness or evil takes over an area and starts to poison that area. The moon itself, I forgot to mention the moon, Jesus. The moon actually is always omnipresent, and always, it's like a crescent moon, like you've seen on the DLC, and it's always smiling and laughing, and it's always there. So it doesn't matter if you split up, when you look up in the sky directly above you, it's always there facing you. It doesn't matter if you're in different areas. And it's always laughing at you, like a cackling laugh at you. It never ceases. And so this, Amelia's like, I believe this sounds like the event the Crooked Moon has come back. She's like, I need you to go investigate it, because this is like, when you destroy the construct, you fixed part of the forest. You actually healed it. So we believe that you going in there and, you know, curing the Crooked Moon will actually cure the forest. So they're like, cool, we can help with that by sending Iradia with you and Rusty. So Iradia she knows how to get back in. If you're happy to do that. But the main thing is, Rusty follows her wherever she goes, and Rusty has an unfortunate circumstance of his internal circuitry is damaged, so every now and again he will literally nucleify himself and just go and explode, which is, it's like almost one hit KO for anyone close to him. Iradia can kind of like use magic to subjugate it and hold it down, but not enough to fully like stop it. So they're like, well, yeah, let's do that. Let's try and figure this shit out. So they re-enter the forest, and so they go back in, and Iradia's like sensing the magic is shifting or warping around, and she's like, yeah, we're getting to a point, like a fissure that we can kind of like go through. And then they get to a point where they see the shimmer, and they're like, yep, all right, this is where we can kind of get into the Crooked Moon again. And so they're like, let's do it. So they enter into it, and they've once again, now they have to re-roll for the ill will bonuses, or negatives I should say. And so they re-roll for those, so they have if they're staying in the mist, that they have the modifiers. And they're like, cool, we're back in. Just before they went in, Amelia gave them the task. She's like, I think what could really help us is if you could find someone called the Mox Queen, so MOX. She's like, I believe the Mox Queen could actually really help us with everything that's going on. And so she's like, that's what I need you guys to find. She's like, if you can go in there and find the Mox Queen, I believe that's actually like your best bet. So they're like, okay, that's our task. They go in there. So they get in there, and they're wandering around, and they're like, cool. We sort of know where we're going with the gist of it. But one thing they know straight away is there's no creatures anywhere. So usually they saw kind of like some animals when they were in the Crooked Moon. And they saw some stuff moving around. Oh my god. I've forgotten like one of the most major things. How did I forget that? Holy shit. Jesus Christ. Let's rewind time back to the start of that day. When Aurelia and Rusty came in, there was a third person that was with them. I'm sorry, Danny. Literally, the audio checks fucking cleared my mind, but we're doing back. So here it is. There was a third person that was with them, which was a very tall man. Yeah, I know. So a tall man comes in with beautiful Fabio-like hair, like the blondie brown comes in, with a very nice, like, kind of done button up, like a button up blazer done up very tight and everything. It's very sleek, black pants and black boots. And it's like really like handsome looking man walks in, and so he's with them as well. And so when they go back up, they're like, well, us three are all going to go together. So this man's like, well, I'll go with you, of course. And they're like, oh, what's your name? He's like, well, my name's Ludwig von Bonestrom. And they're like, what a name. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm a musician, art. I would like to join you. So he joins them too. They get into the forest, and Ludwig's like, well, I actually know my way around the forest. I'm actually from here. It doesn't divulge too much more because I'm actually from here. He goes, I can get you to where you need to go. And Aurelia's like, I can sense it too. They have 9 hours of walking to do, and every 3 hours they have to roll because Rusty may or may not go and nuke himself. First 3 hours go by. There's some fizzes, and yeah, they think he's going to go off, but he doesn't. The second set of 3 hours, he does, and they're like, we need to get out of Dodge real quick. And they're like, well, it's a 90-foot blast radius. If we can get out of the 90 feet real quick, then we'll be fine. And that's what they managed to do. They get out of the way of the 90 feet, it explodes, they get back into line and formation, and they're like, cool, you're good to go. The last 3 hours, he almost does, but he doesn't. He kind of like gets it back in a radius. Like, I mean, able to actually like put him back down to like normal. And so they make it to like I mentioned, there's no creatures anywhere. Usually they say like animals or things attack them, and it's like it's Crooked Moon, like everything's dead and evil and folk horror, so things would be attacking, but there's nothing. They get to a kind of like what looks to me almost like a large bird cage made out of vines and trees and plants and everything like that. And they get to the front door, and they're like, all right, well, I believe this is where it is. Like, yeah, this is where the Mocs live. And like, cool. So they enter into there, and they're like, awesome. They get inside, and they're like, it's empty. There's nothing around them. They don't see anything. They're like, what? Where is everyone? Like, I thought the Mocs are supposed to be here and stuff. They look to the left and right, and there's this kind of like, you know how birds' nests are made out of twigs and berry wood and stuff like that, and it's in a circular formation. It's like that, but it's on the wall. So, you know, kind of like slapped onto the wall, and the hole is in the wall. And they look, and they like in the hole, they can kind of see like shifting of brown fur and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, like hundreds of like yellow eyes just like pierce open and just start staring at them. Like, oh, cool, shit. As like hundreds of like Mocs just kind of like pour out of them, like just like a sea of black fur, and kind of like scutter around them and stuff like that. So, oh, camera, what are you doing? Thank you. Focus. And so they're like, oh, this must be the Mocs. There's like lots of them, and so described it similar to like the soot balls from like Spirited Away, but like more cone shaped. So like they have a cone shaped head, and then like a round butt, and they have just tiny little feet, like little claws, and tiny little hands that sit in front of them like that, and they kind of scutter around like that. Just little, like they have like they have no noses. There's like a mouth that's like, you know, wide, big red inside as well, jagged like sharp teeth, and just beady yellow eyes. They kind of look cute, but they just go like and like scutter around like that. And so like the mocks are all around them and stuff like that, and so they are like, oh, let's say hi and stuff, and they're like really timid and worried. They're like kind of come near us and stuff like that. Um, it's then that they hear the kind of like the curtain at the back gets drawn open. This giant curtain like unfurls itself, and an incredibly large Mox walks out. She's like huge, like same shape and everything like that, but she's got like the really thick thighs instead of legs like that, and her arms are kind of like the T-Rex ones, so they're like more fully formed and everything like that. But she's standing there in front of them, and she has a crown on her head as well. And so like, oh, okay, that's the Mox Queen. Obviously, that's the Mox Queen. And so the Mox Queen's like immediately like, who are you? What are you doing here? Blah blah blah. They explain who they are, why they're there, and she's like, oh well, I'd love your help. That's great. I can help you, but first you need to help me with something like ASAP. And before they even get a chance to think, she like pulls a lever, and above them is like multiple cages of creatures that have been trapped and stuff like that. And she just unleashes like a bunch of like spiders and like I think it was direwolves and stuff like that onto the poor party, and immediately it's like, yep, initiate combat, let's go. So they all roll initiative and they all start the combat. They all start fighting and stuff like that, and then they get to see something odd happen, something transpires, and as they're fighting and everything like that, Ludwig actually pulls out his instrument, and it's the violin. And so it's a very large violin, like double the size of a normal one, sort of like the cello attached to the back. And so he pulls it out, and when he actually gets into combat mode, and you see this green flame actually envelop his feet, and kind of goes all the way up from the feet to his ankles to his legs, all the way up to his chest and to his head. And then when it reaches his head, it actually burns away the skin underneath, and then all that's left is just the skeletal, or the skeleton head that's left. And then the hat is still taken care of and everything like that, but the hair remains. And Ludwig starts talking normally, and it's like just chittering like that. And they're like, oh, what the fuck? And it's like, yep, sorry, this is actually what I look like. Hi, I'm Ludwig von Bernstrom, hence the Bernstrom. And so he's he's a full skeletal man, but with the lovely Fabio hair, and the outfit fits him perfectly still. And so they're like, all right, cool. And so they start fighting the creatures. The battle happens, and they win that one. And then the Mox Queen's like, well, since you did that so easily, can you help with one more? Pulls the thing in, and a kind of large like skeletal structure just kind of spirals down and crashes onto the ground. And like, once it hits the ground, all the kind of bones contort and snap into place, and then large like skeletal dragon actually appears in front of them. And so they're like, oh shit, so great. So they have to fight this skeletal dragon, which has like a bunch of lightning abilities, some legendary actions and stuff like that. It was a pretty cool fight. And so Helvig's like, oh well, we need help. So summons his Bone Devil, which is, he's got the Wisp for the Bone Devil, summons that to help him, and uses necromancy to I think he gets a direwolf on his side or a spider, I can't remember, but gets one of them to help as well to take down this dragon. The dragon, whenever it actually like took damage, it spat out like a lightning kind of glyph onto the ground around it, and essentially once it used its action, those like actual lightning areas exploded and did damage. So if they were near one of the glyphs and stuff like that, they're actually going to take damage, which was not great. But they did win the fight. They did really well, actually. It was an awesome fight, and they did really well. A lot of them took a lot of damage. Bong took a decent amount of damage. But unfortunately, during the fight, Rusty was like, uh-oh, I'm going to explode. And they're like, oh, shit, really? He's like, yeah, I'm going to blow up. And they're like, we're in the middle of a fight, and we're fighting things. How are we going to get you, like, that far away? Because he's going to explode and, like, pretty much nuke everything there. I mean, and so they're like, shit. They'll try different things. And then Ludwig, Danny is like, I've been waiting to use this. And she has the ability to make a ethereal ghost train. It has 120 feet range. And so what it does is she summons this ghost train and just steamrolls through and just smashes into Rusty, and just brings him along with it. So it actually travels 120 feet out of the fighting area. Aurelia grabs onto the train. She goes with them. And so Ludwig goes out with them. And so Ludwig, Rusty, and Aurelia are literally like out there, and he's about to nuke himself. And Ludwig's like, I can't get away. I don't have enough time. And so he unfortunately does take like a shit ton of damage from the explosion. But Aurelia manages to contain a lot of the damage as well. Still did a decent amount. So if she hadn't done that, it would have been like probably game over. And that would have been fun. Half a session for Ludwig. But then Ludwig's like, I'm going to get back into the fight. During the time, the rest of them are all like fighting this Bone Devil as much as they can. And the leftover, I think, spiders that were there too. And so they finished the fight, and it was a big congratulations to them. It was an awesome fight. They finished the fight, and the Mox Queen's like, hey, yeah, I'm really sorry about that. I did not mean, you did me a great service. Like, we need to get rid of those creatures, and you just did it for us. And she's like, oh, well, also, you know, the Mox are like seeing Bong as a monarch. Because he's got that aura from the Witchlight Carnival. They're calling him His Majesty as well. She's like, well, let's get you a crown. He gets a little twig crown that he wears as well. He's not quite have another one. She's like, yeah, we can have a twig crown. It's fine. She takes a twig cape as well. She has a twig cape as well. That's too short, so that kind of reaches like the lower back of his half of his back. And now he's wearing that as well. On top of his very flamboyant clothes. But the Mox Queen's like, well, actually, I need your help with something. We're trying to create a countermeasure against the Prowler. And she's like, we are making something called the Hunter. We believe we need, like, the Hunter will help us kill the Prowler with help. But we need you to help with one thing with the Hunter. And they're like, oh, okay, what's that? And so she pulls back the very large curtains. It's like a circus curtain covering this giant cage. You can hear this huffing and like steam coming out of its nose as there's this enormous cage withholding this deep black goat demon. So imagine like the kind of like, you know, the satanic goat demon, but like on all fours. Its eyes are beaming blood crimson red, and you can see that it's supposed to have the third eye in the middle, but it's obviously not there. It's missing. And so the Mox Queen goes, this is what we're calling the Hunter, and we're having this one here used to kill the Prowler. We want to finish the Prowler's reign of terror within the Crooked Moon, and so we're going to utilize the Hunter to do it. And so that she's like, within the forest there is a swamp, and within the swamp there is a beast who has stolen the eye, and we need you to retrieve it from this beast. And so the party's like, yep, we can do that. Let's get on with that. And that was it. That's where we ended it. Several weeks ago. In fact, several weeks ago, I was like 2 months. Fuck, it's been a long time. But yes, that is essentially that is the entire campaign from the start to now, caught up as much as possible. Yeah. Wonder who. Just kind of slid out. That is essentially the TLDR version of the campaign today. So at the moment, they're in the Crooked Moon. Time passes differently. I think it's every 12 hours is like a week outside, so it's a lot of time. And you know, there's the ball to attend and stuff like that. Time doesn't wait for no one. But they've chosen they want to go ahead and actually try and help Amelia kill Quinrala, her sister, and that's what they've chosen to do now. So that's what's happening at the moment. Like I said, what we're going to try and do is I'm hopefully going to have the stream up and running with the rest of the guys. You actually see our sessions. So when you see our sessions, there'll be Monday, 8 p.m. AEST. I can make a schedule on Twitch, so I actually start making a schedule thing on that, so it actually notifies people. And I actually found that you can save these videos on Twitch. So what I'm going to start doing is saving these and the sessions. And one last thing I want to do is I want to do a third stream where I'm going to I'm just going to start streaming DM tips and also player tips. So it's something I like talking to people about, and so I thought, fuck it, let's do it. So a lot of people, when they want to get into DMing, are scared about a lot of things, or they don't like doing certain things, or want to know about certain things. And I've been doing this for like fucking 15 years, so I was like, well, why don't I just tell people what I did and see if it works? Like where do you get your inspirations from? Like, a bunch of the inspirations I get is literally from music. Like, it's great. Like, you listen to some music, some Celtic folk music, and you're like, just the lyrics are like, here you can have my autograph, of course. But like just things like that. Like, if you ever, like, I'm having a dry spell and you're not thinking about like where can I get inspiration from, like, think outside the box. Like, you're like yeah, D&D is about, unfortunately, stealing other people's ideas and merge them into what you want to do. But the whole point is you can actually like find some great like inspiration from like music. And it may seem weird, but like even popular music can like spur like cool little ideas. So it's things like that that I like to tell people, and they're like, oh, that actually helps. So that's a stream that I'm going to do alongside the normal sessions. So hopefully in a week or 2 weeks, if all goes well and I can facilitate the time and get the overlays working and get this fixed, we'll stream. And we'll actually, everyone will be able to watch the sessions, which is what we want. So yeah, as it currently stands, we have like 6 people. We have 2 cameos, so Ryan's got Moxie and Danny's got Ludwig von Bonstrom. We've got other people that may want to join. Like I said, we've got the 4 core characters, and if it kind of melds together and the others want to join permanently, we might be able to facilitate it. But I'm all about having other people wanting to have fun and join in, as long as it doesn't create too much chaos. But like I said, as a DM, I've been doing this a while, and I already have like 2 more campaigns worth of ideas ready to go. So if the guys are like, yeah, we'll have fun with this one, because like after this, the Crooked Moon part, it's gonna like steamroll for a bit and they'll get really far real quick. We can keep doing that. But the idea is everything for this channel is going to get uploaded, everyone's going to be able to watch it, and everyone can enjoy it. So with that, it's like 11:30. I'm going to go get ready for bed. In the meantime, yes, I'll set a schedule. Everyone can check out the streams when they're up. And the main thing is I want everyone to enjoy them. So if you can share them or follow them or send them to whoever you like, that would be the easiest way to get this out there. I've already done the work of seeing other YouTubers and trying to talk to them and stuff like that, but it helps everyone else does it. So let's get this out there. Let's get this have fun, and hopefully our first session soon. So with that, I thank you. Have a great night. And if you're watching this for the first time, yeah, follow us so you can watch our actual sessions. So everyone have a great night. Catch up.